This video took a lot of willpower to do because I was in my procrastination and side quests era. But anyways, I thought it'd be fun to add another addition to the drawing my muses if they were in a hypothetical gacha game I made. And just like the last video, I will be rolling for these characters and they'll decide who I'll draw for this episode. Alright, so let's do the spins live. For those who didn't see the first video for this, basically, I divided my muses up into 3 categories in this hypothetical gacha game. So you have the blue, which is the 3-star muses. I'm probably going to get at least one of them because they're the biggest section. Then we have the purple, which is the 4-star muses. I have a chance of getting them still. It's a little bit lower than the blue. And then obviously the yellow or the gold, which are the 5 stars, which are going to be the hardest to get. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's see who my first character I have to draw is. So just like last video, I'll also be spinning to get 5 characters to draw. As you all saw, I got Kaden and he'd be a 4-star in this hypothetical gacha game. This means I have to put an okay amount of effort into his splash art. Now, I'd say like 95% of my muses on the wheel I've never properly drawn before. Kaden is in fact one of them. I have a thing with my characters where I will just create them, maybe I have an image of them in my head, but then I just don't draw them. I don't know if that's just me though. But anyways, I'll talk about what I imagine Kaden's lore is in this hypothetical gacha game. Now, with the info I did come up with him, he's just a painter guy. I have sort of a running joke with him accidentally drinking paint water because I just find that funny. It's a miracle he hasn't died yet. So similarly to what I usually have him as, in this, he would also be a painter. He has the ability to bring whatever creations he draws to life. If you guys watched the last video, I made a drawing for a muse named Steven, and he has a very similar ability, but make it spray paint cans. If this was an actual game, I feel like people would compare Kaden and Steven a lot. They'd be like, oh, Kaden is just a 4-star version of Steven. I didn't talk much about people's kits in the previous video in this possible series, so I'll say a few things now. I think Steven would have been like one of those DPS characters, whereas Kaden is like a sub DPS. But maybe in this hypothetical game, there's flexibility in building characters, so you can make Kaden an actual DPS if you wanted to. Now, do I have an actual system in mind for this game? No, because it's just a hypothetical gacha game for fun, and I'm not actually going to make this a thing. It's just fun thinking of silly ideas. Now, because this is sort of a design video, I'll talk about some of the choices I made. I've decided to make Kaden from just a normal human realm, so he doesn't get any crazy features. Because of the setting I imagined for this hypothetical game, I referenced a lot of clothing from ancient Asia, but with a few modern twists to keep things interesting. So Kaden is a painter, like I said earlier. I imagined he'd have paint stains on his clothes. You're not going to see it in the sketch though. But when I start to color this, then it's obvious. I also gave him this weird half skirt thing with a lot of pockets. It's probably a very strange choice, but I thought it looked cool. Also, maybe it's where he stores his brushes or something. So there's a practical use for it, guys. Now, I think aside from that thing, the design overall is pretty plain. He is meant to be a 4-star in this game. I can't go too crazy now. But also, I feel like Kaden himself would be a very simple man. He wouldn't dress in something fancy and complicated. I think if you put him beside the 5 stars I designed last video, which you can sort of see them in the sidebar and the speed paint, he definitely looks more plain compared to them. Then again, I think if the 5 stars in any gacha games looked plain and boring, nobody would pull for them. Now, for the rest of trying to do Kaden's splash art, I'd say it went pretty smoothly. I did get this done in a reasonable amount of time, maybe 2.5 hours. I was so lucky the coloring was simple and I didn't have as many layers. Otherwise, it would have taken so much longer, which wouldn't have been as fun. I swear, clothing and drawings are the bane of my existence. They either make me love or hate drawing the piece. But I will say, if the clothing is more detailed and you do manage to survive coloring and shading it, it does pay off. And you'll see that for some of the later drawings. It definitely makes the designs look so much cooler in the end, even if it came at the cost of my sanity. Now the speed paint is wrapping up. I'm just finishing up shading the clothes and then we'll get onto the hair. I don't exactly have much commentary for this, so let me just show the final result. Here is the final drawing. I think this is probably a good design to start off the video. Again, nothing too crazy since he's not a 5-star in this hypothetical game, so yeah. Okay, next character. Oh, I actually already drew him last episode. Let's just... Alright, so the next muse I got was Yoon. Similarly to Kaden, he's a muse I thought of but never made any art for. I decided for this video, I want to make sure I include a muse from all the nations in this video, so we get a variety in designs. In case you didn't watch my first video in this, there are 4 kingdoms. Alyris, a kingdom in the sky, Akranos, a kingdom in essentially the underworld, the mortal or human realm, and then Sarais, a kingdom underwater. The human or mortal realm is what you'd expect. Alyris is a kingdom full of winged people with special abilities. Akranos is full of demons and possibly other species of the like. Then Sarais has merfolk, selkies, and whatever other underwater creatures. So I had to decide a nation to put Yoon in. Ultimately, I went with Alyris. In my first video, Vidinea is someone from Alyris and she wore pretty lightweight revealing clothes. I had lore reasons that I covered in the first video. Now obviously, we ask if I plan on giving Yoon the same treatment where he too is also wearing lightweight revealing clothes. Well, the answer is yes. We believe in equality here. But also, one of my pet peeves when it comes to designs is when the females are all wearing really revealing or sexual clothing while the men aren't. I say it's either all or none in this situation. Now, there were many parts of this design that I struggled on. I'm sure you guys saw in the sketch that I kept redoing the head accessories. I just didn't know if I liked the placement of the feathers or not. When it comes to having a head at a 3/4 angle, and then having to put on head accessories, I tend to fumble a bit. It would be a very boring video if everyone was front-facing though. But now looking back at all the drawings, almost everyone is at a 3/4 angle, so is it really any better? I'm not sure. At the very least with Yoon, we can see his back. Since he's from Alyris, he gets to have the wings, but that means most of the design I came up with for the back will be completely covered by those wings. Oh well. I'm sure some people might be curious about what I have on Yoon. Truth be told, I don't have as much as you think. He's not as developed as some of my other muses, but some notes I do have is that he's always tired, doesn't really sleep much, overworks himself, and really doesn't like the ocean. He's one of my calmer muses. Honestly, I could go in and try to develop him more as a muse in the future if I feel like it. But I already have so many of them that it's just, I don't know. Seriously, that wheel has like 140 names or something. It'd be crazy if I eventually do enough of these drawing my muses as gacha character videos so that everyone on that wheel has art. But I doubt I'll actually get to that point. It might honestly take 5 years if I do them consistently. So for now, we'll deal with what I have. I will say though, these drawings take a lot of time, but Yoon's took one of the longest. It does have an okay amount of detail for a 3-star character in the hypothetical game. But remember when I mentioned I was in my procrastination and side quests era in the intro? Yeah, that doubled the time I spent on this piece. Honestly embarrassing that I spent that long because I kept getting distracted, which is why this section is sped up a ridiculous amount. So sorry if you guys get dizzy watching this part of the speed paint. At the very least, it should be wrapping up soon, so I'll show the final illustration. Here is the final illustration for Yoon. Out of all of the 3-star designs I've done so far, I think his is up there in my favorites, but we'll see if that changes with a future video. Okay, next one. When I saw that I got Huck for this, I was happy about that. Not only is he one of the muses I do draw a good amount, but also I actually did have ideas for him. You're probably wondering if I favor certain muses so much, why do I still spin the wheel? Well, it's boring if I only drew my favorites all of the time. If we just get me to take out a hidden gem and give him actual art, it'd be good. The only bad thing about getting Huck is that I made him a 5-star in this. That meant I had to put real effort into his splash art. I felt like a character who is one of the main 4 I have the most art for should be a 5-star. I did say in my first video for this that 5 stars were based on vibes for the most part, but also high-key, it's characters I use a lot more and are developed. And Huck is in fact one of those developed characters. I struggled so much on posing for Huck because as a 5-star, the drawing needs to have that same energy. My first video for this was 5 months ago as of editing this, and I have no idea how I did any of that. I had 3 5-stars in the video. They all had pretty interesting poses in my opinion, but with Huck, he's just standing and so I had no idea how I'd make that interesting. So I tried messing around with the legs, which definitely led to some pretty cursed results. I eventually figured something out, but I still wasn't satisfied with the pose. He was giving 4-star with the art at that point, but I think the reason why is because the others somewhat seemed like they were doing something. Huck is just standing there. So, how do I fix it? Well, if you can sort of see the 5 stars from the first video in the sidebar, you'll notice their art has like foreground elements and kind of a background of sorts. And there it was, the solution to my problem. Just add more stuff to the art, even if your future self is going to hate you for it because you just added more to the workload. And when I say this took a while even though I kind of locked in, I meant it. Now, as you guys can probably guess, Huck is one of the characters from the human realm in this. I feel like a lot of characters are going to end up being put into the human realm if I make more videos on this. A lot of them just fit those vibes. Now for Huck specifically, I was thinking he has ice abilities of sorts. So he can create ice sculptures, snow, and whatever else you can think of. So keeping all of this in mind, I knew he definitely needed to be covered up for his design. I imagine the abilities make him really cold. I thought it'd be cute if I threw on like a scarf for him. So I did just that. I also thought long flowing sleeves would be really fun. He'd be the kind of person to wear something like that. You probably saw me attempt this earlier in the sketch, but I wanted to give him earmuffs, but it looked so off with the rest of the outfit. My solution? He has this cloth he ties around his head that covers his ears. It probably looks stupid to some people, but I think it's cute. Then again, Huck isn't one of my muses known for his fashion sense. It's like mid at best, but the clothes he's wearing for this is okay. It's really cliche, but I put a lot of blues in his color palette. It's always nice to match the colors to the element or type of magic he's doing. I won't do it all of the time since I think subtlety is nice, but yeah. There is a part of me that does hate how I said Huck had ice magic. It meant I had to draw actual ice now. Drawing ice is pain, and I actually have no idea how to do it. I quite literally just wing it. I just do some sharp blue thing, shade it a bit, added a glow, and that's somehow ice. Don't ask me how that works. I had to draw a decent amount of shards for the splash art. If I didn't, we wouldn't have the effect, you know? He also has some snow to go alongside the ice because why not? These touches make him seem like a 5-star, at least in his art. If I removed them, he probably would look like a 3-star since the 3 stars I don't do much with. They just get art. That's it. No background effects. Now, in terms of coloring and shading for Huck, I think it was kind of tedious. He did have a good amount of layers to his clothes, but that's on me for designing him like that. Like, there are a good amount of parts. Even so, I think his art right now is my overall favorite, though the art I did do for Virine is kind of a close second. Funnily enough, I look forward to when or if I eventually get to one of the people these two are close to, because I do have ideas for them. But again, that'll wait when I decide to do one of these videos again. Watch it be another 5 months because I try to do other content or something. And speaking of that, if you guys have suggestions for what kind of content you want to see from me, let me know in the comments. I just want to make sure you guys enjoy whatever it is I put out. Can't put effort into something for no reason, right? There's still a little bit left on the speed paint. You might be wondering if I even thought about what kind of role he'd play in a team in this hypothetical gacha game. Probably a support. I think I've mentioned this a bit, but I always try to fit roles with personalities. I don't know, it's a nice touch. And at least a normal Huck would be a support. If we were talking about a dark version where I may have screwed things up, well, probably a DPS, but we don't have to worry about that version of Huck here. Now, this should be at the end of the speed paint, so let me show the final result. Here is the final illustration. I do wish I gave him more of an interesting pose, but it's fine. The effects compensate for it. Maybe. So the next muse I gotta draw for this is Jingi. I think I did his art the fastest. Like I was really focused or something. I decided to make Jingi from Akranos because between him and the final muse I had to do, I think Jingi fit the nation more. Which is funny because personality-wise, Jingi is a cinnamon roll. He's very soft, sweet, and nothing like your average demon. I imagine in this game, there is a stereotype that demons are all heartless jerks or something. Maybe one day I'll actually expand and refine the lore outside of just making fun, silly videos like this. But we'll see. Obviously, in my last video I made for this, I had Soyeon, who is someone else from Akranos. Her vibes from Jingi are so different. So one thing I did was I gave Jingi shorter horns. He's meant to be a much younger, inexperienced demon. So I think giving him short horns helps with that. I didn't get to draw this in with Soyeon, but the demons have pointed ears. Soyeon's hair covers her ears. Now, for demons in this, I did debate between a few details. I think there's a lot of variety in how they may appear versus how in Alaris with the winged people, most of them generally have similar vibes. With the demons, all of them have unique markings on them, or something. Maybe vastly different horn shapes too. Maybe some have wings and some don't. The ones that don't can still fly though because magic. But back to Jingi. He definitely seems too soft to be a demon, but that's the point. It's always nice to have a variety of personality within this species or something along those lines. Now, unfortunately, I don't have much else on Jingi outside of his personality. But one thing I did apparently have with him is his inability to speak whatever common language and having to rely on a translator. But for this universe, everyone sort of just speaks a common language. So I'd likely change it here to where he's just really shy, doesn't want to talk much, that sort of deal. Like maybe he hates the way his voice sounds or something. Either way, he absolutely has no confidence to speak. Jingi lacks a backstory, which is so embarrassing on my part. Like, how did I mess that one up? But I think it's likely something along the lines of having overprotective, overbearing parents that sheltered him from the world. Maybe I should revamp him one of these days and give him proper details. So many old muses that I've made once and then never did anything with again probably had potential. So why not, right? Now, in terms of role in a team, he's another support hands down. One of the few characters from Akranos that lends himself to that. Because I imagine most people who I'll throw in that nation are more rough around the edges. A lot of them would be DPS characters. Maybe a sub-DPS if they're more reserved. Jingi himself is definitely a support because he would absolutely hate fighting. If he could avoid it, he would. And despite being a demon, he's probably very weak power-wise. So, yeah. Honestly, I feel bad for him because the guy is constantly struggling. He's doing his best. Anyways, the speed paint is ending soon, so I'll show the final product. Here is the final illustration. His design is a bit plain, but it's to be expected. I think he still ended up really cute though, and I kinda just want to give him a hug and tell him it'll be okay. Now I have one more, so let's see what it'll be. Alright then. Alright, so Natsuki is the final muse for this video. And she is one of those muses who I made once and then never again. Actually, Natsuki and Steven originated from the same thing. After I made them, I just had no interest in them. So for Natsuki, there's not much that's interesting about her. She's just a really sweet, optimistic, borderline chaotic kind of girl. She's the girl that'll get into some sort of trouble and then yaps too much. I do have another muse that's like that already. That one existed before her. I guess that was why I never did much with Natsuki again. She could definitely be revamped or something. Now, it's been so long since I last did things with her. I have no idea if she even had a backstory or what. So she certainly has a lot of missing pieces to her. Pieces that I probably won't fill in for a long time unless I have a sudden interest in her again or something. Guys, this is why you shouldn't have too many muses. You'll just neglect the other muses and then you ask yourself, why did I put any energy into this one muse I never do anything with again? But anyways, I decided to make Natsuki from Seirai's since that was the last nation I needed someone in for this batch of characters. Because Natsuki is from Seirai's, it means she's an underwater creature of sorts. So last video I had Chaewon, who is a Selkie. For Natsuki, I decided to make her a mermaid. She has a mermaid form of course, but for her splash art, I'm drawing her in her human form. She does keep a few mermaid features such as her ears though. So I think Chaewon is sort of an outlier when it comes to how people in Serai's dress. After all, she's a rugged, rough assassin. At least, that's what I think her lore is. For people in Serai's, I'm thinking more beachy, flowy, tropical kind of clothing if they're on land. Underwater, they are just in their respective forms for the most part. Maybe there's a small town that's considered part of Serai's that's on land or something. Just a few ideas. But back to Natsuki. I wanted to put her in a beach dress alright, but then I had this idea. So for the end of her dress, there's like a long train that's tied into a bow, and the entire back looks reminiscent of a mermaid tail. I imagine the merfolk in Serai's have something like that for their default outfits in human form. It's probably not much, but it's just a nice little touch to the design. I think she ended up really cute though, even with a simpler design. Unfortunately, I don't think I have much lore for her in this hypothetical game yet. But maybe she's in a similar vein to Jingi, where she is the first character of that nation you meet or something. Like, the 3 stars are all around casually, but it's really the 5 stars and maybe some 4 stars doing the major stuff in the plot. I don't know, it's just something to think about. Anyways, that's enough yapping. I'll show you guys the final illustration. Here is the final illustration. Maybe I could have added more, but who knows. And that's all for this video. Maybe this could be a genuine series on my channel, but we'll have to see how I feel. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it though. If you did, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe. Anyways, see you all in the next one.